The candles were my mother's idea. She liked the illusion of warmth, soft light, crystal glasses, the table set like we were a family people might envy. Outside, fireworks were already rehearsing for midnight. Inside, the air felt padded, controlled. I had set the table. I always did. My brother leaned back in his chair, swirling the last of his drink like he was auditioning for someone else's life. He was 2 years younger, but carried himself like the heir to something. My parents watched him the way investors watch a rising stock, patient, proud, indulgent. The conversation had drifted, as it often did, toward contributions. My father made a comment about responsibility. My mother added something about sacrifice. Their words curved gently around my brother, never landing on him. They rarely did. Then he looked at me, not angry, not emotional, just mildly curious. "You know," he said, almost conversationally, "even if you disappeared from this house, nobody would need you." He took another sip. My parents didn't laugh. That would have been crude. They smirked. The kind of small, approving expression that says finally someone said it. The silence after wasn't explosive. It was thick, expectant, waiting for me to defend myself. I didn't. I reached for the water pitcher and refilled my glass. Midnight came. We counted down. We hugged. My mother kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. And I began calculating. The comment didn't wound me the way they probably imagined it would. It clarified something. For years, I had been the quiet hinge of the household. I handled the property tax filings. I updated the business compliance paperwork. I transferred funds when cash flow tightened. I mediated small disputes with suppliers. I kept track of insurance renewals, digital access passwords. I was not loud, so I was not visible. My brother liked visibility. Meetings, announcements, big ideas. He introduced himself as running things. I corrected mistakes quietly. That night, lying awake, I realized something uncomfortable. They didn't think I mattered. They simply assumed I would remain. There is a difference. I didn't confront anyone. I made appointments. First the bank, then our accountant, then a lawyer I had consulted once before but never formally retained. I brought documents, copies, agreements signed years ago when I was just helping out. At the time, my father had said, "Put it in your name for now. It's easier." It had been easier. For everyone. The business registration, for one of our rental properties, sat under my legal authority. Several vendor contracts were co-signed by me alone because I had the stronger credit profile. The emergency line of credit, established during a slow year, was approved based on my income statements. No one had hidden it. They just hadn't thought about it. The bank representative was polite and precise. "If you're restructuring," she said, "you'll need written authorization from all parties. Otherwise, accounts tied to your signature remain under your control." Control. The word didn't feel triumphant, it felt heavy. I didn't want power. I wanted accuracy. At home, nothing changed at first. I stopped transferring small bridging funds without discussion. I stopped renewing contracts automatically. I forwarded official notices instead of handling them silently. When my father asked, "Did you fix the supplier delay?" I replied calmly, "That contract is under your management. You'll need to contact them." He frowned, confused. My brother rolled his eyes. "You're being dramatic." Maybe. Or maybe I was being precise. The first real crack came 3 weeks later. There was a scheduled meeting with a commercial tenant who leased one of our larger properties. It was supposed to be routine, renewal terms, slight increase, formalities. My brother arrived confident. My father carried the folder. I arrived with a thinner one. The tenant's legal advisor asked a simple question midway through negotiations. "Before we proceed, can we confirm authorized signatory status?" He slid a document across the table. It listed ownership structure and registered control. My name sat at the top, not as assistant, not as co-signer, as primary authorized representative. My brother blinked. That must be outdated. The tenant's advisor shook his head gently. "It's current as of last quarter." My father turned to me, not angry, disoriented. You never mentioned. You never asked. I said quietly. No one raised their voice. The advisor continued, professional and neutral. For renewal to proceed, will require her signature. Her, not helper, not daughter. Authorized signatory. My brother shifted in his chair, something brittle cracking beneath his composure. After the meeting, in the parking lot, he finally said it. So what, you've been planning this? No, I said. I've been maintaining it. That was the difference. At home, the atmosphere altered. Subtly. Requests replaced assumptions. Can you review this? Would you be available to sign? My mother stopped making jokes about my serious nature. No apology came. That would have required reflection. Instead, there was caution, respect born from paperwork. It wasn't satisfying. It was quiet. One evening, my father knocked on my door. He hadn't done that in years. We didn't realize how much you were handling, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. I nodded. He waited, perhaps expecting warmth, reconciliation, something cinematic. I didn't offer it. I'm restructuring my involvement, I said evenly. Clear roles, clear compensation, clear boundaries. He looked older in that moment. Your family. Yes, I replied. And I'd like to remain that way, which meant no longer being infrastructure disguised as affection. The changes took months. Contracts were revised. Ownership percentages clarified, responsibilities divided in writing. My brother's tone shifted most dramatically. He stopped making offhand remarks. He asked questions instead of issuing suggestions. But something else shifted too. The illusion dissolved. I no longer mistook being needed for being valued. They needed me. That had always been true. They just hadn't thought I could leave. On the anniversary of that New Year's Eve, we had dinner again. No candles this time. Just overhead light, practical, clear. My brother talked about expansion plans. My father discussed numbers. My mother asked me about my own projects, briefly, cautiously. No one referenced that sentence from a year ago. They didn't need to. It lingered between us, not as an insult now, but as a dividing line. Midnight approached again. We counted down. When the clock struck 12, my brother raised his glass. To growth, he said. I met his eyes. To clarity, I replied. There was no applause, no dramatic reconciliation. Just a subtle, undeniable shift in posture around the table. They no longer smirked. They watched me carefully, not because they loved me differently, but because they understood something they hadn't before. Silence is not absence, sometimes it is preparation.